Movsar Evloev versus Lerone Murphy. Now, who really won this fight? And I apologize about my voice. I am pretty sick. I'm powering through this, so this fight is very interesting. It was a very strange fight, not only with the way that Movsar fought, but the scorecards were very unexpected. I think most people believe it should have been either a draw at best for Evloev, or Murphy won the fight because of the point deduction. It was very odd to see that Evloev didn't shoot a single takedown for the first 2 rounds, and it looked like he dropped those because of it. But when the scorecards were read, in England of all places, we think they have, if any bias, would be for Murphy. When the scorecards were read, it was very shocking to me to hear that Evloev won the fight, even with the point deduction, which means he would have won 4 rounds out of the 5. But which ones? So I looked at the scorecards themselves, and it turns out that 2 of the judges gave Movsar Evloev the first round. The second round, all of them gave it to Murphy. Third round, all of it gave it to Evloev. Fourth was a tie, and then 5th round to Evloev. I think every round was scored correctly, except the first is very controversial. So in order to show who actually won this fight, let's look at the first round and score it according to damage. As we know from the scoring criteria, damage trumps all. We're going to be categorizing each strike in accordance to damage, light, medium, and heavy. So in the first round, the first strike that somewhat lands is a grazing jab from Evloev. A light strike doesn't really matter too much, and Murphy pulls away after, thinking there was going to be a follow-up right hand as he picks up his guard. Then in this exchange, they both land leg kicks on each other. Murphy's was slightly better, but Evloev landed first, which is going to take power off of Murphy's kick. Both light strikes. A grazing lead leg kick from Murphy, another light strike. Then Murphy throws a combination. He throws a front kick to the chest that seems to have fallen short. Evloev does parry the kick downward. Murphy then follows up with a 1-2. The jab just a measure, it doesn't reach the target, and Evloev tried to slip to his left, but gets caught by this right straight now. The punch does hit his hand before it lands, but it's still a good connection. Good shot there from Lerone Murphy. Doesn't seem to hurt Evloev to make it a heavy strike, but definitely a medium. Clean shot right there. There is this overhand from Evloev. It's tough to see if it actually grazes at all or not, but if it does, it would be a light strike. We'll come back to it if it makes a difference, but I don't think it will. Then they both exchange, and Murphy begins with a jab that Evloev slips on the inside of, and then he counters by ripping a left uppercut to the body that lands flush, throws an overhand that connects with the forearm, and then Murphy counters him with his own body shot, but it doesn't land with the fist. It lands with the side of the hand, like the thumb area, so he's not able to dig in with the shot the way Evloev did. But Evloev didn't throw the body shot that hard. In real time, you can see he was using it to set up the overhand, and it doesn't get a reaction out of Murphy. The overhand does, though. And it wasn't like the overhand dragged his head to his side. He actually stumbled the opposite way of where the overhand was hitting his head. Causes Murphy to stumble when he threw the body hook afterward. And it seemed to have been from the impact of the overhand. Even though it didn't land with the fist, you could land with the forearm as well or the wrist, and it still could cause a lot of damage if we see the reaction from it. Then Murphy goes and throws a 2-punch combination, lands a jab to measure for his right hand, and that punch grazes. So the jab was definitely a light. Now the right hand, it's interesting to see the reaction from it. So it looks like Evloev's reaction might have been just to shake off the right hand and it wasn't from the damage of the blow, or it was from the punch itself. But the way that Murphy threw it, it didn't have like a big arc to it to be a big right hook, you know? I'll put it in between a light and medium. And then we go to this exchange, and Murphy begins with another jab. And again, Evloev slips on the inside of it. He's got some pretty good head movement, and they both land their next shots. Evloev grazes with a left uppercut, and Murphy lands his right straight, and it looks like Murphy's actually got the bigger reaction. And I think it's because it wasn't a grazing shot the way Evloev's was. So I would say Evloev's is a light strike because it didn't really get a reaction out of Murphy. And Murphy's, I would say, is a medium strike. If that left uppercut did not graze, that would have been a big shot for Evloev though. But then he grazes a body kick across the chest, a light strike. Then Murphy lands a leg kick. Now we don't get the best camera angle for it. You can see the foot right outside the leg, kicks the leg inward slightly, and Evloev is throwing a right overhand to counter, which like grazes the skin. I don't even know if we count this as a punch, honestly. But the kick definitely counts for sure. Like this wasn't even like the body kick where the toes literally scrape across the chest. This was like the glove just touches the skin and then that's it. And then in this exchange, Murphy throws a right straight, which causes him to square up his stance, making his body more open to get kicked. And Evloev hits him with a perfect push kick, literally blasting him all the way to the fence. Now, I wouldn't say this is a heavy strike because push kicks are meant to push you away instead of actually causing damage to the body. Because of the way he's planting his entire foot onto the body, heel and toes, It's not the same as like a teep or a thrust kick. He's not really hurting Murphy that much, but I would say it is a medium strike because he got a big reaction out of him. I mean, pushing him all the way to the fence from there is actually pretty impressive. This will be a medium strike, which I think is pretty fair. Now, Murphy throws this head kick, and Evloev blocks it with one hand, but as we know, head kicks like this, if you're not blocking with both, still causes the power to generate through. Now, it does bounce off of the hand and over his head, so not all of it is connecting right through it, but I will say this is a light strike. You gotta block kicks with two. Now, this overhand that Evloev throws doesn't land with the fist, but Murphy doesn't block the whole way through. There's a big portion of the forearm that still connects behind his guard, but it doesn't get much of a reaction out of Murphy, as he does partially block it. Evloev lands a flush body kick, one of the bigger strikes of the round. And just like Evloev earlier, Murphy grazes the chest with his kick as well. Evloev lands a leg kick. Then they exchange here, both in southpaw. Evloev is throwing a left overhand and Murphy is throwing a right body hook. Murphy's right hook lands toward like the lats ribs area, and Evloev's overhand misses with the fist, but again, connects with the forearm across the head. But it does drag his head down as he turns into a single collar. And then Murphy throws the same. He throws a right overhand himself, but it bounces off the shoulder, then the forearm hits the head. Though when Murphy was moving in, Evloev throws a body kick to try to keep him away, but at first it looks like the kick lands potentially above the cup, but it does drop into it, so I'm not going to count this. So yes, there were more low blows in the fight than the ref picked out on. Murphy teeps the chest, and then in this exchange, after they both miss a few punches, Evloev lands with a right hook, again with the forearm on the jaw. Doesn't get much of a reaction, but I don't know what he does with his left hand. It's hard to see from the camera angle. I don't know if he's going for an underhook or he's throwing a left uppercut. It looks, because of how fast it is, it might have been a strike instead of a grappling move, but we just don't know. And then on the disengagement, Murphy grazes with the right hand across the nose. Jab for Murphy, leg kick checked. Jab gets through the guard. As you can see, his glove is right in between Evloev's, and then the overhand gets blocked. Then Evloev throws a left overhand into a right uppercut. The overhand gets blocked, and the uppercut lands flush, straight into the face, and gets a big reaction out of Murphy. And I would give this a medium strike. Jab for Murphy, a teep to the body for Murphy. Now, this is the difference between a teep and a push kick. Look how he's throwing the toes into the body. This is much more damaging. But Evloev does block it before it connects, so it does take the power off of it. And that is why we didn't see much of a reaction from Evloev. Then Evloev throws a body kick, and it does bounce off Murphy's guard. You can see it hit the right arm and then into the body with the toes, so some of the power was taken off. Inside leg kick from Murphy. It looks like Evloev went to check, but the kick lands on the inside of the leg, not into the shin, as you can see right here. Then he throws a body kick that lands right into the ribs. Evloev grabs it after it connects, so the impact still gets through. And that ends the first round. This was a really tough round to score. As you can see, it is very close. Murphy landed more total strikes, more light strikes, and they almost even each other in medium strikes. Now, of course, with the subjectivity of scoring, some strikes can be categorized slightly differently. You know, like the push kick, for an example. If you don't want it to be a medium, you can make it between a light or a medium, you know, something like that. But the reaction was so big, pushing him all the way to the fence like that, it's hard to just score that less than a medium, you know. But if you want to, you could do so. Murphy landed some decent shots as well. Because the most damaging shots were so close, and Murphy clearly landed more strikes, I'd probably give the first round to Lerone Murphy. It's very, very close. Like, I'm not saying this first round was a robbery. Actually, looking back at it, Evloev landed much more powerful shots than I remembered, but I still think even with that, Murphy's output, his cumulative damage, overall wins this round because neither guy really got hurt in there, you know. Evloev landed 15 total strikes. Murphy landed 21, you know. So I'm going to be honest, man. If you think Evloev won the first round, I can't really disagree too much. If you think Murphy won the first round, I more so agree with that, but this was such a close one. So I do think the judges got this one wrong. I think the fight should have been a draw, and then potentially them doing a rematch in the future, but that would have lined up another contender to fight Volkanovski. And I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. If you guys did, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I am losing my voice.